A big thanks to Tom for requesting that I take a look at the 2007 anime film 5 centimeters per second. If you haven't seen this film, or technically this series of 3 short films, then I'm just gonna come out and say that you need to do yourself a favor and go watch it immediately. Especially coming off the director Makoto Shinkai's most recent highly acclaimed animated film, Your Name, there's no better time to go back and look at this fantastic piece of his older portfolio. Starting his career in the mid to late 90s, Shinkai received huge notoriety for his animated short film Voices of a Distant Star, which he directed, wrote, produced, character designed, storyboarded, cinematographed, edited, and animated. That short is created almost entirely by himself. Voices of a Distant Star is a fantastic indication of just how much creativity Shinkai has going on in his own head alone. If one man can do that much, imagine what he can do when he actually receives help. And if you've seen his other works, such as last year's film Your Name, then you can understand why people come out of it in tears and singing praises. 5 centimeters per second, in a way, is no different. Although it's presented as 3 short films, they're in fact all one story when all put together, telling the tale of a young boy and girl who fall for each other, but when their families move apart, their lives also begin to move apart. Despite moving apart, their feelings for each other still remain, at least to a point. But the real story here is about how life doesn't really go in the direction you think it's meant to go. And if you've seen any of Shinkai's other work, you might find that, while not addressed quite in the same manner each time, this is kind of a common thread throughout his works. He might give you an ending that makes sense, but not necessarily the one you're hoping to get. In that sense, the one thing I might be critical of is that as a director, he becomes somewhat predictable. However, in 2007, it hadn't yet been overdone, and what you get is something very relatable and somewhat cathartic, even if the results aren't exactly what you were hoping they would be. The first short film, Cherry Blossom, shows scenes of young elementary school students, a boy named Takaki and a girl named Akari, meeting for the first time and getting to know each other. They become close fast, but after a while, Akari has to break the news to Takaki that her family is moving away. Despite this, they write letters back and forth to each other and strive to see each other again. They meet and express feelings to each other, but this will be the last time they ever see each other. In the second short, Cosmonaut, we see Takaki in high school, but from the perspective of a new girl, Kanae. She desperately has a crush on Takaki, but no matter what she does, no matter how nicely Takaki seems to treat her, she notices that he's never actually going to like her the way that she likes him, because his mind always seems to be in another place, maybe even thinking about somebody else. And in the third short film, which is actually labeled 5 centimeters per second, Takaki and Akari are now adults, with Akari engaged to be married to someone else. Takaki hasn't spoken to Akari in years, but somehow still can't move on. It's wrecking his life, and he quits his job because his head has been so wrapped up in this idealized love from childhood, and he just can't pull himself together. But it ends with a scene that's meant to be left up to your interpretation. It's possible to interpret that by the end of it, he's ready to finally move forward with his life, but considering we don't see past this moment, we don't really know. And that's sort of the reality of things. Even when feelings between two people are mutual, it doesn't always mean that life circumstances will lead to a happy ending. That's not the fairy tale outcome that we've all seen in movies since childhood, but it's the honest truth. And seeing it portrayed in some kind of media like this makes the reality more normalized, which I think is something this world could use a whole lot more of. Especially in anime, where people and their fandoms cling to an idea that they can end up with someone they lock eyes with for the first time. Anime relies a whole lot on wish fulfillment fantasy, which has become incredibly profitable. But 5 centimeters per second does not lean in on this profitable fantasy. It tugs at your heartstrings in a realistic way, and it's for that reason that it becomes a title title that might just stick with you for the rest of your life. It has a way of finding something really relatable to just about anybody, and then finding its way under your skin. Aside from the gorgeous animation, another visually stunning aspect of the film is the attention paid to the scenery and the accuracy to real-life locations. You may have heard news of people recently taking pilgrimages to locations that had inspired the locales depicted in Your Name. There was painstaking attention paid to recreating these locations in that film, and it's the same in 5 centimeters per second. Takaki's journey by train to meet up with Akari is especially notable. When I lived just outside of Tokyo, I had to take a number of the lines and transfer at a number of the stations Takaki had to journey through. And in 2015, I even went with friends and loved ones to visit Iwafune, the very same train station where the two kids meet up together at the end of the first third of the movie. Watching the scenery change and the city drop away is very real, with each of those train stations being real train stations. The Iwafune station really is that small wooden box you see in the movie. In fact, when we got there wasn't even a station master working there. We just had to rely on the honor system to drop our tickets off in a box rather than handing them to a person, and we just walked right on out. Granted, our view of Iwafune was significantly different at the time because while the movie takes place during a snowy winter, we were visiting while summer was turning into fall. Regardless, it was obvious how much attention was paid to the surroundings. The scenery porn in this and most other of Shinkai features is breathtaking and is sure to stir up anyone's sense of wanderlust. I'm the kind of person who likes making pilgrimages to real-life locations like this to see unseen scenery with my own eyes, not just because it appeared in a piece of media I care about, but because that piece of media made me care about and get interested in a place I might not have even known existed before. Iwafune, for example, is such an amazingly quaint little town. I had a conversation with the lady who ran the convenience store right here. She introduced me to her 2 cats, telling me that one was the mother and one was the child, and we talked about recent flooding in the area. There's a cool temple at the top of Mount Iwafune, and there's a small rock quarry next to the mountain where Super Sentai or Power Rangers, Kamen Rider, and all kinds of other Japanese special effects shows are filmed. Man, sorry, I know I got off on a bit of a tangent in regards to Iwafune, but while I think somebody could make fun of you for wanting to visit a place just because you saw it in a movie, I don't see how anybody could make fun of you for going to see a location that most other people wouldn't want to go to just because it isn't in Tokyo, and going to see what the rest of Japan really looks like. It's life-enriching. You'll see things most other people will never see in their lifetime. Iwafune is an incredible little place, and most people don't even know about it. So quiet and peaceful. I hope to be able to go back someday. What's great about 5 centimeters per second is that it's actually currently available on Crunchyroll, both subtitled and dubbed. America also got a Blu-ray printing earlier this year, so it's pretty easy to come by. A manga was published, which fills in significantly more information than the film does. It sacrifices the fantastic scenery and is a lot more wordy, but it fills in some blanks in everyone's relationships with one another. In fact, I was confused by the existence of some new female character in the 3rd arc of the movie, only to have it clarified that this was a person that Takaki was having a failing relationship with in the manga. Maybe I should have picked up on that in the movie, but for some reason I was just too unaware to pick up on it without having been expressly told to me in the manga. But I do also like that in the manga, Takaki elaborates to this girlfriend about how he's been stuck on this girl from his childhood who's been the love of his life that he just hasn't been able to get over at all and is causing him to wreck relationship after relationship. That's information you just don't get in the film. We also get an additional narrative about Kanae, the girl from Takaki's high school, who moves on with her life okay, but even in the face of somebody else telling her he's interested in her, she can't accept him because she's now unable to stop thinking about Takaki, even though Takaki was never romantically interested in her in the first place. It ends with her going all the way to Tokyo to find him, and ends equally as ambiguously, with her seeing Takaki empty, presumably after he's finally moved on with his own life. Do they get to see each other? Is it possible that they might actually have a happy ending together, satisfied with one another? Maybe. Just like the end of the movie, it's hard to really say, up to your own interpretation. But sometimes, I kind of like when a narrative doesn't give me all the answers. I like the speculation. I like that the story leaves me able to talk about it with other people. It means it was more than just empty, hollow entertainment. It really meant something. I'm suspecting that the manga was based on the novel version of 5 centimeters per second that was also published, but I've not yet read it. But I will say that if you want the full picture, I highly recommend watching the film first, then reading the manga. Breathe in the basic story they wanted told through the film first, then get the dirty details of everybody's lives in the manga. It won't take too much of your time. I'm really happy Tom gave me an excuse to revisit this classic Makoto Shinkai film and asking me to introduce it to the rest of the world too. This is a movie you won't regret watching, and I hope it finds some personal meaning for you, as it did for me too. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope to be able to see you again in the next request review.